All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us at this Asset Map Expert series where we're talking to Anton Swanepoel today. He needs absolutely no introduction, but we're going to do it in any event, Anton, not to put you on the spot, but it's inspirational. I mean, I went through your CV again, 33 years of experience, former FBI Financial Planner of the Year finalist. I did not know that. Of course, won the Harry Bruce Chairman's Award Prize from the FBI. Was acknowledged as for your contribution on the short-term side by Cover. Former chairperson of the FBI, sits on numerous industry bodies, including COFI, which I think is very relevant, and we're going to get to that. And of course, you've launched your trusted advisor business, which I think is amazing. And then relevant for today, the author of 20 books on trust, ethics, leadership, financial planning, etc. All right. So what we're here today to do is unpack your book that you wrote with Rochelle Miley from Ultima. So it's called The Ultimate Leadership Blueprint for FSPs. And then very importantly, the tagline, the way you think about your business will determine its course. So a very warm welcome to you, Anton.
Thank you. Thank you for that kind introduction, Benny. Would you like to proceed and with the admin side of things, the presentation, etc., or would you like me to kick off?
What I want to do, I want to ask you one personal question first. Then we're going to do a bit of a intro, so Anton can just sketch the principles for us around what his vision is, and then we're going to go into the very practical aspects of there's this amazing resource. How do financial planners get the most from it? So I want to kick off first, Anton, and just ask, how did this update come about? And maybe just tell us a bit of the backstory around you writing this update.
I must say thank you for that. I haven't had that question in any of the seminars yet, and I got to say, I have a passion to make a contribution to financial services providers that are overextended. I think with the more people I speak to, it's a tough industry. This is not an industry for sissies, that's for sure. And there were two other books written by Lee Rossini and Johan Maria on practice management, but it's being written many years ago, and somehow I thought maybe I could make some of these practice management principles more visual and less like a book, more pictures, more illustrations to make it. Pictures speak to me. A picture paints 1,000 words. I enjoy making difficult concepts a little easier. And to put that in a book like a puzzle, where a puzzle has got a framework and it's got many moving parts. And that analogy really, it spoke to me. And I think the industry needs a manual where every frame of the practice management topic can be highlighted, and the key elements of practice management as moving parts can be put into their rightful place. So that's the analogy that I use, and that's the picture I had in my head. And it turned out to be a much more comprehensive manual. But the nice thing is that as you go through the index, you can then just pick the spot where you think you lack maybe some context and some guidance. So this was a wonderful project to do with my co-author, Rochelle. She is a CFP professional. She's got an honors degree in business management. So she was a wonderful resource with her background also, and to do some nitpicking on the editing side. So it was a wonderful project. And look, people like yourselves, Benny, who graciously sponsored co-sponsored this manual to make it available for free. So you thank me for giving it out for free, but I got to publicly acknowledge your contribution, because you also made it possible to have this manual be distributed free at no charge to any FSP. So thank you as well.
It's a huge pleasure, Anton. And I must say, we of course we sponsored the book before we saw it, and I was so happy. And the story that you're telling about, people like to see pictures. They like to think in terms of putting a puzzle together. I mean, that is the asset map language, because that's what clients love. So just as you're saying, advisors like that, clients love it. Those clients are so fed up with seeing schedules and graphs and stuff. So certainly, so I was very happy to see that aspect in the book, because we think that is where the future is. People don't read emails and long words and stuff. People want to engage with stuff. They want to grapple with stuff. So today we're going to try and bring that to life for the audience. How do they grapple? Because I think everybody's keen to improve their practices, and the question is just
Absolutely.
Where does one start? So maybe,
Absolutely.
Anton, if you can sketch a bit of an introduction. I know Anton's got a few polls for us. I'm going to ask the audience to comment if I mess up the polls. But anyway, but yeah. So if you can maybe just give us a bit of an intro, and then we'll get into unpacking how to
Wonderful.
get from your book.
Yeah, before I start sharing slides, it's just to prepare the audience. We are going to send out a PDF version of the slides, so you don't have to keep yourself busy with admin. It will be distributed. The reason I'm so keen on polls is that we always, well, most of us, we work based on assumptions, and I don't want to make assumptions. I've done surveys in the past. There are going to be 3 questions posed to you, and those questions just helps us to, determine whether we are focusing on the right areas, if we can be of value to you. So it doesn't help us going on a tangent speaking about leadership, but your problems lie in the operational space. So it's for that reason that these 3 questions are just going to help us, so that we can later on in future publications help you. So please participate. It's really helpful. And also, I serve on the COFI transition work group with the FSCA. So when I give input, I would love to give input with authority. It's not my opinion. It is based on industry feedback. And that really gives us gravitas when we engage with the FSCA and with the FIC. It provides authority when we say, this is what the industry is saying. So your contribution with these polls would be extremely valuable for all of us, not only for Asset Map, for Benny and his team, but definitely for me. There's another publication on its way in November, and this research will definitely help.
Awesome. Anton, yeah, and so for everybody, just, I mean, that Anton's inviting you to give your view effectively to the regulator on these matters. So please, when the polls come up, yeah, please take them seriously.
All right. So shall I proceed with the intro?
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
Here we go.
There we go. I can see that. There we go.
All right. So happy with the slideshow. It's visible. Everybody can see it. That's the title. We're going to have a executive summary, the proverbial 80-20, the 20% of the book we're going to highlight. Hopefully that inspires you to download the book and just use it at your leisure. A very important principle that may be of value. I used many of the top 50 most admired companies in the world as part of my research. So it is not only a South African perspective. There are many principles from the top asset management companies. I mean, BlackRock is the biggest asset management company in the world. Their vision, their mission statement, their values, etc. Morgan Stanley, and then of course Apple being number one over the last 18 years since this survey was run. So in the publication, there are many references to the most admired companies in the world. This is the publication that I will be speaking to today, and on the back end of it, in November, this publication, Solving the Kofi Puzzle, will be released. And why that is important is I use the puzzle analogy. Even in the book, I highlight that practice management is the colorful side of your business. When people talk about practice management, everybody's interested. I would argue that's the reason why we've got so many people taking part in today's workshop, is because when it's about practice management, you naturally are inclined to think creative. You want the business tips to make your business competitive and for you to be on the front foot. And this is what this book is all about. You will see if you go through the book, there is very little reference to legislation. The main focus in the practice management book is about the creative side. How do I make each building block in my business better so that I'm competitive? Now, what very few people realize is that the dull side of a puzzle, the gray side without any color, that's the regulatory side. People, if this had a compliance theme, I doubt whether we would have had 25% of the audience today, respectfully. But it's natural, because when we attend a session that is about making my business better, then you don't want to miss out. But when it's about compliance, you say, oh, gee, do I really have to? It sucks the life out of you. And it's representative of the industry makeup. And I don't condemn it. I don't judge it. It is just how it is. So therefore, what we need to, the perspective change that we require is to see the compliance and the regulatory side as the back end of the same puzzle. They are two sides of the same puzzle. And in the book,
at
yes.
the risk of being exceptionally rude, if I can interrupt you, just go back to that previous slide. Because
Sure.
I think I might steal this idea from you, because this is exactly just thinking about from when we now engage with clients. We often think of the gray. Like when we think about financial planning, this is what we think about, all the mechanical stuff around financial planning. And then we present the back part of the puzzle to clients. And I love this thing. Like we can't present the back into a client. We've got to present that colorful full picture, and we often do it the other way around. So I love this analogy. Sorry for the
Yeah.
introduction. I just had to share that.
Well, Benny, now that you highlighted it from that perspective, that is exactly what I've seen from your software. It's illustrative. It is, you see much more in your presentation to clients. And I think that is probably why your software has taken off in the way that it has, because that's extremely valuable. One of the elements I refer to in the book is the practice management prisma. Now, if you had to take the four cornerstones, the aspects in your practice on the far end at the bottom, it's like a tent. The far end is about your financial planning. So if you're in investment management, you've got to be competent in that area. So you have to have all the qualifications, experience to do an investment plan. On the right-hand side, you've got best practice principles. And one of those best practice principles would be to invest in investment software that will help you to deliver a plan in an understandable way to a client. So your subject matter the financial service that you are rendering, investment planning. But best practice relates to how do we communicate that to a client in order to establish trust with a client. On the left-hand side, you have the other side of the puzzle. So we all get excited about what is best practice and how can you attain a client's trust. But at the other side of the puzzle is the compliance. You've got to present your proposals in accordance with the regulatory framework. So obviously, those three cornerstones at the bottom of the tent, that would be the key elements of every practice. Your financial discipline concerned, best practice, the way you present that to clients in order to get them on board, and then it's done in a regulatory way, a regulatory manner. And then, of course, the top end that holds the mast, the tent up, is your culture and governance. And these are the four cornerstones. That's why I refer to it as the practice management prisma. If you want to improve your business, those cornerstones will have to be in place. Now, interesting, we referred to culture in the previous slide, and your client engagement, the whole thing about culture, and that culture is a TCF culture, and I see it's now hidden behind our pictures, but those are the new FPI building blocks that will help you to demonstrate a ethical culture, competence, integrity, professionalism, clients first, and then the rest you can see. So
I think
I'm
Anton,
not going
to. It is clear on the screen. Well, at
okay,
least
wonderful. Wonderful, thank you. So what is important is that, and you'll receive a copy of this presentation, but the FPI, I was involved in the committee that reorganized the ethical principles in the FPI Code of Ethics. You will see accountability was added to those. So in other words, now with TCF, we know what the principles are, the outcomes, and ethical culture. That is what we are referring to in the previous slide at the top, culture and governance. Right, now we get to our poll stage. So let's see. Shall I stop sharing here and just follow? Ah, wonderful. So Benny, you were muted.
okay,
I thought it was mine.
that'll help. Thank you for pointing that out, everyone. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Anton. Yeah, so nearly 3/4 of people have answered, and so I think Anton, and I think the results are quite clear. So I'm going to just give it 2 more seconds. Yeah, we're at the 75% mark. So I'm going to
Brilliant.
to end the
Brilliant.
poll.
Thank you.
And you're happy that I share the results?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That would be wonderful.
All right, so you can see the clear winner at the end. Biggest challenge. So,
Wow.
can you see that on the screen?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah, we
excellent.
do.
So
Wonderful.
time, excellent. All right, so
Excellent.
do you want us to do
Yes, please.
let's do
The
the next
second one as well.
All right, so next question, and I'll read it. Given the obligations in terms of all the regulation, I believe financial advisors, intermediaries are under-regulated, fairly regulated, or over-regulated.
I see you smiling there, Benny, because
I see the audience wasn't waiting for me. weren't voting for me on this one. And yeah, we're already at the so there's going to be a clear one here. We at 75%. So I'm gonna end this poll. I think the results are quite clear. So I'm gonna share that results.
All right.
Yeah,
Excellent.
overregulated. And then third poll. Let's just see, how do I do this? There we go. Third question. I'm just going to read through it again. And this is now asking for advisors, your readiness to transition from phase to COFI can be described as, and then poor, limited,
So
good, excellent.
how would you describe
and I must say,
readiness?
Anton, I mean, and maybe because I'm not directly involved, but I think I've read COFI 3 times in the last year, literally from end to end, and I still don't. And maybe it's because then I forget about it again and stuff. But it's tough to stay on top of these things.
Well, that's why I intend to, with the publication, is just to make it practical and see what will not change and what will change. That will already make a difference.
Cool. I'm going to close it, but I can see there's a slight nervousness here because I think the guys are hedging their bets because they're going, if the regulator is seeing this, they're not going to be like in for a but I'm going to share those results. It was just under 73. It was just under the 75% response rate.
Okay. What I wanted to know there is whether there's a gap for us to help with the perspective and to create awareness. And I think part of this presentation will also speak to that towards the end. But that was useful.
And maybe, Anton, just from personal experience, knowing many of the people on the call, these are the more progressive practices. I mean, I'm painting broad brush and stuff, but these are guys that run excellent wealth management practices, many of them. And so it's just to put in perspective, these are often business owners. Okay, cool. All right,
Right. So let me then go back to the, sorry, it has frozen this, let me just, there you go. All right, let me just jump in then into, I see our time is running out slightly, so I'm going to.
We'll see. We'll get through as much as we can, Anton. If we really feel, if the audience feels we're really not doing it justice, we'll just have to pick it up again in a few months. But I think let's see.
Okay, I've fast tracked a bit because I think this may link up with the capacity issue. And may I say that it is consistently the number one challenge that financial advisors have, is the lack of time and capacity to do everything. The entire industry is stretched to its limits. And the question is, what do we need to do in order, where do we start? To quote you, Benny, that's the outline. Now, where we start is to differentiate between the things that are already in place and are timeless. It was the same before phase, during phase, and it's not going to change post-COFI. I think when you get rid of that worry, and this is why Jeff Bezos, the top three, the third most admired company in the world, the CEO made this statement. He says, everybody asks me what's going to change. That's important. But a more significant question is what's not going to change. And I'm going to bring you good news today, because most of financial planning practices, most pieces of the puzzle are consistent. They have never changed. And that's what I want to highlight during this presentation. So this slide, this picture is also referred to in the publication. These underlying building blocks of every single FSP business in the country, in the world for that matter, deal with client engagement. And the more effective you are in the client engagement, the more money you will make. And the allocation of capital to your various departments will determine your profit or your loss. And this is where most of you are. If you've been in the industry a long time and you're an astute business, you want to have peace that the building blocks, the foundation of your business is solid. Because if you acknowledge that you still do prospecting, even if it's word of mouth, without prospecting or repeat business, you can't grow your business. So if you still have the passion to grow your business, prospecting, whatever your strategy is, I'm not talking about taking the yellow pages of old and phoning random clients. That is not part of your strategy, but you have a prospecting strategy nonetheless. If it's word of mouth, if that's your strategy, which we know is the most powerful of all, then it's still a strategy. Because if you stop looking after your existing clients, you know for a fact that your word of mouth will stop. So in other words, we know that every practice, a lead, a referral, a name and a number, that's where you start growing your business. You have to do something with that prospect. You got to make contact in one way or another to have a meeting. Now, whether it's virtual or face-to-face, that's how you start engaging with a client. So when you arrive there, what do you do then? And that's where, after the 6-step process of financial planning kicks in. So don't get confused between the 10 steps of client engagement and the 6th step of financial planning. The reason or the difference is the FPI process assumes that you've got a client to speak to. Now, we've got to go beyond. This title of this book is about practice management. And practice management goes beyond the 6 steps of financial planning. It goes beyond it. That's why we are now focusing. Don't get confused between the two. The 6 steps is integrated into this client engagement process. So these 10 steps, advisors continuously tell me, this is how we grow our book. We get a reference, a referral, we contact the person, we see them, we have a discussion to determine their needs and objectives. We agree that we can help them or can't help them. On that agreement, we limit our liability by saying, do you need a planning for retirement, planning towards, planning at retirement? Is it a liquid? 5, the agreement on the service. Then, of course, with the information that you've gathered and the astute info, etc., you go onto AssetMap, you import that detail into the program, and that helps you to present to the client a very colorful F&A document and proposal. And we're on presentation. After that, the client says either yes or no. And on agreement, there's paperwork to be done, application forms, your advice agreement, or some people refer to it as a record of advice, whatever. The paperwork is done. Step 9 is the implementation of that business. And then, of course, that's how business gets onto the books. I have not had one advisor to tell me that that's not more or less their framework that they engage with clients. Now, of course, that part is critical because that's where all your legislation are referenced, and I'll give you an executive summary. That, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to really ask where do I start, is to fine-tune, rejuvenate, and simplify that process. And the only way to do it is to make optimal use of technology. with your CRM systems, etc. That is an absolute vital element. That is the ripple effect. That's the drop into the water that starts the ripple effect from a FSP point of view. I speak about that at length in the book. Benny, I see you've unmuted. You wanted to add something.
Well, of course, I've got to jump in there and say that's why most people in the audience, I mean, they 100% agree with you, Anton. Is that we think this is where that's sort of the real value unlocking value in a practice is here. And I mean, that's why technology like AssetMap is amazing, because it just unlocks value there. So we're 100% in agreement, and I really like and I mean, the book and for the audience, you're going to see what that book does. It's got chapters on basically all of these topics. So it's very comprehensive. And so it's an easy way to jump into, let's say I'm stuck on marketing or presenting my proposal, whatever those topics are. So the book is great for that. But I've got a question, Anton, and that's why I unmuted. The way I understood the book, and I've been through it a few times, is it does cover all these technical aspects. But in that strap line, the way it's the way we think, and there were a few chapters. They're a little bit hidden, to be honest, and I'm going to just point them out to the audience. One of the critical chapters for me is chapter 5, and then chapter what was it, 51, and that talks about our mindset and our approach. So in other words, what I want to say to the audience, and what Anton set out very clearly, is before you even jump into this detail, think about your mindset. So won't you just talk a little bit about that, Anton? Because I think that's important, because otherwise people start thinking about the detail and they want to jump in and say, I've got to fix this and do this. And then what we know is that's not always sustainable. So talk to us a little bit about it. Why did you bring in those like softer, those sort of things about mindset and psychology and leadership, those points?
Yeah, I must say, I think we'll all testify that the way you think about something will ultimately lead you to believe something, and that will influence what you do about it. So in other words, some people have just got a negative mindset to start with. I know many cynics, and it's not fun being around them, if I have to be very honest. I always feel inspired, and when I deal with positive people who focus on the positive. And one of the examples I want to mention is many people, when they look at the client engagement, all they see is administration and compliance documents, etc. And then they get negative with the paperwork, instead of asking which of those documents are business enablers, and start eliminating your mindset from every paper is a compliance document. Let's use an example. Your letter of authority, or your letter of consent. That document is a business enabler. It's not a compliance document, because what that document allows you to do is to get quick access to multiple pieces of the puzzle from a financial planning point of view. You can use that with Astute. You can use that with the insurers, should you wish to get additional information. Otherwise, you had to phone each and every one, get separate letters of consent. So that paper is not part of your compliance pack. That is a classic business enabler. If you have a client request form to limit your open-ended liability, there's a one-pager document that I use for my clients, where immediately on a one-pager, the client tells you exactly what they want you to do. One-page document, signature through quickly sign. is part of your system that's a business enabler. Why? Because that document limits your open-ended liability under phase. It tells you and the client and your internal staff what must happen, and linked to that, your letter of authority. You can start operating. You can fast track processes. So I think the mindset of viewing each document as a compliance document is fundamentally wrong. There's a difference between business enablers and compliance. And that's part of the mindset. And it's so important because that energizes you to say thank you for the signature of a letter of consent, not, oh, gee, another document to complete and sign. That's a bit of a mindset.
I absolutely love that. And so I would say to the audience, please go and read those chapters. I think it's 5 and 51. Go and read those chapters very carefully, because it talks also a little bit about leadership and our mindset, how we communicate to our staff, how we communicate to our clients. So I love that as a starting point, Anton. And then maybe a cheat sheet. As I said, I worked through the book. It felt to me that there's this hidden gem, and it was in chapter. In fact, I'm getting my chapters messed up, but I think it's chapter 51, where you said before you jump into the detail, there are things that you can do first. You can start thinking about strategy and Pareto and value. And so I'd highly recommend to the audience, Anton's had a long list in that book around practical things before you jump into the details. Start applying your mind to that. I don't know if you want to just add something to that, Anton. What is the thinking behind bringing in that sort of 80-20 or the value of strategy, that type of thinking before one jumps into the detail?
Yeah, I think you got to prioritize with your strategy. And of course, we know that strategy, you don't need a Harvard study to tell you that a strategy poorly implemented is almost as bad as no strategy at all. So no implementation. So you've got to follow through, but then also to identify the areas in your business that you're battling with. So if you take the client engagement process, you may be battling and your representatives in the business may be battling with one of those areas. Then in the book, you might get some pointers. So if I had to use this book, I will first do a SWOT analysis throughout the business. And that will determine where do you start, because you may have other, a practice that uses technology efficiently and effectively. They may have totally different priorities, whereas a using technology, and their focus will be different. So it depends where it just depends where your priorities lie. So that SWOT analysis will be a critical starting point, and that will help you to determine where your priorities are.
And then what really stood out for me, and I think that from personal experience, Anton, so we get our mindset right, we figure out where to focus and prioritize. I love that. And then the third thing you highlight so really nicely, I think if I remember correctly, let's just see where I don't go and mess this up again. I think it's chapter 52, where you talk about how do you maintain your change initiative. And I love that because I think what's human nature, we sort of jump in somewhere and then we get distracted and then we don't carry it through. And you talked about the qualities of leadership and stuff, but maybe just talk a little bit about, yes, we all mean well, but how do we maintain that? And I mean, you even have those little, I love those tracking sheets and stuff. So maybe just talk about what would be your recommendation? How do the people on the call, how do they maintain these initiatives so that they don't run out of steam?
Okay. To answer your question, I need a bit of a run up. If you look at this table, I would recommend that every key individual on this platform consider the 10 steps of client engagement. Some may battle with prospecting, the newbies. That's your focus. So it's a pendulum. The experienced guys with good books and it's sustainable, what you don't want to do is become complacent and other technology or the use of technology passes you by and creates a situation where you are now on the back foot. So you want to forever be vigilant and resilient when it comes to these changes. But here we deal with best practice standards. What I mean by that is the way you engage with your client. Basic stuff. Don't be late for appointments. You are friendly, you courteous. You have got EQ. You know you can read body language. That's best practice. The way you communicate, respectful. You educate. It's not a tell. It's a listen and tell. So all those best practice principles, many people miss out on the gathering of information. Some advisors send out the documents to complete your assets, liabilities, your risk profiling questionnaire, etc., etc. Most of them miss out on a trust building exercise during that. You don't hear how the client is working this out. You can't guide. So many people, we've designed a 4 or 5 pager risk profiler questionnaire. Some of the advisors say, what? 5 pages? My client will never do that. It's 5 pages of getting to know your client and reading the body language and picking up on uncertainties. Where the client is uncertain, you can guide the client to explain and give context. That's trust building. And people underestimate that. So that is around best practice standards. The trick is to integrate compliance into your best practice. So if you don't see the risk profiling questionnaire, if it's a fundamentally sound one as a compliance document, but a trust building tool, your whole mentality shifts. And then, of course, what you need there is high trust. Trust is the one thing, as Stephen Covey says, that changes everything. Without trust, you won't have a business. So that needs to be the focus, not compliance. The question is, how do I integrate compliance into best practice to elevate my trust building? And then again, your technology, how to use technology to be more effective, and that gives you capacity and more time to do things better. And of course, your advisor experience. For the key individuals with reps in your business, do a poll and ask your advisors, what are our experiences here? Is it a 6 out of 10? The prospecting, how are we doing? What mark out of 10 would you give us there? And then work on that research in your own business to determine which step needs to be made more effective and efficient. So it's an integrated process. If you can enhance the advisor experience in your business, it will have a ripple effect over to your client experience. And ladies and gents, a value proposition ultimately comes down to the client's experience. There are a number of aspects. I speak about the value prop, and I've given you the elements of a value proposition, but ultimately a value proposition comes down to the client's experience in the client engagement process. Last but not least, step 10 is the ongoing. So getting your client's feedback, the first step of growing your business is look after your existing clients. That will be an indication whether you are on solid ground going forward. So that has got, I'm cognizant of time, and I've summarized this whole presentation by saying this is actually where you should start. is do a SWOT analysis with your reps to say, okay, let's dissect, let's unpack the client engagement process. Give us a rating, and you do a SWOT analysis on each one of those. Where are we strong? What are we doing well? Can we tick this box for the next 5 years, yes or no? If not, what do we need to do to enhance it? So if I had to allocate, the biggest priority, it lies within client engagement, because this is where FICA becomes applicable. That's where POPIA needs to be integrated. That's where phase, the General Code of Conduct, is relevant. That, in my view, would be a main strategic next step after reading or scanning through this book with a positive attitude.
I really like this approach, Anton. I mean, it's also, I mean, we work with advisors in other countries. Well, I see in the UK, Australia, they are freaking out because the legislation in the UK and Australia are now very specific, saying you got to explain to a client exactly what value did they get from these steps. You have to document it after every meeting, and so you're 100% right. This is where things are heading, and this is what we've got to get right. And often advisors will think about starting in the back office side, and so we couldn't agree more with this approach. I mean, Anton, we could spend another 3 hours. I promise you, easily we can do that. So I mean, these insights are incredible, and I mean, I would have loved to spend more time with you, but I think I want to, maybe we should say this. Anton is working on both on that's, I don't know if you call it another edition or that sort of Kofi element. So he's working on that to support the audience, but he's also working on bringing out a program how to systematically help advisors work through all of these things. So we're really looking forward to that, Anton. And I'm sure that we're going to see that in the news, and we'll share it with the audience once those details are clear. But maybe if I can ask this, Anton, just taking a step back, and I mean, what is the one message that you think you'd want to convey to the audience? In other words, what is the like what sits behind this book? What is it that you want to? What do you feel passionate about? What is the thing that you really want to communicate to the audience? Why is this stuff important? Why should they care about this?
Yeah. Thank you. I would say I'd summarize it as follows. With Kofi on the horizon, we enter into another season of, or before phase was implemented. You know that there was a fallout with some advisors deciding to leave the industry. We don't want to see that again, because we know that good advisors add much value to their clients. So this curtain raiser before my Kofi manual was to inform you and give you hope that it's not just about legislation. When you read about Kofi and when Kofi is promulgated, etc., don't be fearful, because practice management is the colorful side of legislation. And I wanted to put you on the front foot, because you will see, if your question is not how do I comply, but how do I make sure that this is the best that my business can be. So focus on client engagement, professionalism, and making your practice the best that it can be. That was really the desire, to give a framework of all the building blocks in your business and cross-checking whether you can improve in that area. And sometimes we just might have to make small incremental improvements. And when you look back after 2 years, you cannot believe how you've elevated your business. So part of the dream of this manual was to unpack every part of a practice, and then to bring best practice principles so that you can be on the front foot. And when Kofi comes, it's going to be a seamless transition, because legislation, I close with this comment. Jeff Bezos, when he was asked what did he want to do with for clients, he said, "We want to blow our clients' socks off." He didn't say we want to treat our clients fairly. So, can you see the shift? Kofi is about TCF. That's a minimum standard. You have to wear a practice management hat to elevate your business. And when you focus on that, you'll see that Kofi will be left far behind. It is a minimum standard. I want to encourage you, use this framework to take your business way beyond. And it's not legislation. It's just by the way you design your processes, your systems, etc., that you've got an efficient and effective process. That was I know it's long-winded, you wanted a bumper sticker, but that was the principle, Penny.
I absolutely love that, Anton. I mean, your passion and your attention to detail, all of that shines through in that answer, and we really appreciate you sharing that wisdom with us.
Thank you.
As I mentioned, we deal with advisors across many different countries. I haven't seen anything coming close to this approach. No way.
Thank you.
And so I think that we're very blessed in South Africa to have experts like yourself. And so we really appreciate your time and thanks for sharing that. I mean, I'd end with two things for the audience. Okay, so I always learned earlier in my career, what is the one thing you're going to take away from this talk? I'm going to say two things. You know, the one thing we always say, you know, when's the best time to plant a tree, and like if it's like 10 years ago today. But I heard another way of saying it yesterday. It said, you're never going to be as young as you are today. Okay, so the point here is, my first point, let's start today on this. And secondly, it's how do you eat an elephant? It's bit by bit. And Anton's really laid out like the puzzle for us. And yeah, and I highly encourage everybody to take little steps. And there's lots of people to help. You know, there's, I mean, Anton, certainly and there are lots of other people. There's people that are really keen to help. And so, in other words, I love that mindset that we thrive in Kofi, not that we're fearful and we worried about and stuff, that we can thrive. And it's that mindset, because there's certainly is going to be a split between the leading practices and the not so leading practices. And Kofi is going to really exacerbate that. So, make sure we all want to be in that leading group. So thank you very much, Anton, for sharing that wisdom with us. And yes, we're going to, afterwards, we'll send the recording out, a link to the book. I see that's probably the number one question. We want to, people are keen to get that link. We'll make sure. I think what we do is there are two versions, like a more condensed or a lower resolution one and a bigger one, because it's a huge book and it keeps on crashing. But we'll make the link available. We will share the presentation with everyone after it. So please go and take the time. If you feel you need motivation, speak to one of us. Please, we're here to help. So thank you very much, everyone. And yeah, and then there's just lots of thank yous. Can't wait to read the book. And a lot of thank you. So Anton, thank you very much for your time.